Hello there. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a deeper look at these weird alien sects, but it's more for comedy. Like I'm not that interested in learning about it because number one, it's fake knowledge which does not need to exist. It's just fantasy lore, and let's just see where this goes. I have no idea. I'm just gonna look what we find. What is this? This is weird. I guess these are just artworks for him. Because, God forbid, he would ever have like evidence for something like this. I mean, they believe it. There is no evidence. Why do they believe things that have no evidence? I don't. What is this? No idea what this is. He's now called Sharon. Oh, and this is the Cobra person. Hmm.
Oh my god. That is so true.
And you can hear him chuckle because he knows he's one of those infiltrating assholes who gives a controlled narrative. Oh my god, that's so true. This is what this is. Let's look what these people do now. I have no idea. Let's see what he does because he's a big douchebag. These persons are not well grounded. Cave preview. Alright, he makes lawsuits against Stina Bobina and these other Jay Whitener and so. And why? Because they say that he's a fraud. He's insane. This is insane. This is so evil.
They expect the elections to be contested for months and that they will be disrupted by all of this. Now, when I asked why,
This is her channel, right? And she's just very skeptical of this bullshit. Obviously, you can see I watched her videos. Her videos are at least funny, you know. Especially this one. No, but it's laughable what they do. What are they doing? Are they doing anything that has any meaning? I think the Edge of Wonder alien stuff, I think they disappeared. What is this? A second generation clone, but this is not from them. What is this? Is this a rapper or something? What is this?
we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
So this statement is quite famous, and it explains what is going on. That they want to delude people into believing that there is an outside alien war and that we can unite against a common enemy, because apparently most people need a scapegoat. They need their 2-minute hate every day so that they can feel good. This is the 2-minute hate. This is from 1984. And they had every day they had to watch this so that they could hate somebody who does not even exist. This is what this is. This is what this is. 2-minute hate. So that they can hate something that does not even exist. And of course, after that very concise, short, condensed phase of hate, then now comes the triumphalistic patriotism. We are good. It's like Hitler. And he's from the inner party, from the Freemasons, and he gets very patriotic. He loves this bullshit that he makes. This is what this is.
And they're just like, oh, you know, now we walk around like this. We saw the other people. We saw these people in the store, and they had feathers on their heads. They had plastic feathers. And then they had a plastic hose that came out the top. They went down like.
And now he comes with this really fucked up shit. Look how he got back here. He's like smiling. He's slightly amused at the antics of Wilcock here. The plastic hose and bubbles on their head. At this point, I don't think he believes what he says. He's just making up law.
And the hoses are all kind of jagging around like elephant trucks. And the elephant doesn't really know what he's doing because he drank too much liquor.
Ah, this is the Wilcock. And now I understand. This must be a very big Wilcock.
You know,
or maybe very small Wilpipi.
Trunk right into that liquor bottle. And they're walking around with other people. It's like, what is this shit?
Yeah, Wilcock, what is this shit?
And then you can't laugh, right? You're not allowed to laugh. You're not allowed to laugh at the bubble people. Because their feelings are going to be hurt. They have feelings inside their plastic.
Okay, so what is he doing? He's building the lore of these bubble people, and then he's also this. I noticed this very early, and then he also, you can't laugh at them. They're like, you're gonna hurt their feelings if you laugh at them. And with this he's solidifying. This is like the mortar for his bricks which he builds, right? Look at him.
Do you believe in feelings and stuff? Yeah, they're all.
And look at his face. Look at this.
I don't understand this stuff. What the hell? And if I had the choice, I'd say, you know, let me just kind of hang out a little bit and see if this shot's a good idea. I'm not just gonna like jump in on this thing because you know it's pretty strange. The way that like the president of the United States is banned off of social media, these people think
Are they
they're
Trump
better than the
people?
president.
Probably.
Regardless of what you think about them, they think they're better. They think they know better. Oh, F you. And then they're telling you, oh, well, we know what's true.
I mean, a choice between a Trump and a Biden is a pretty bad choice anyway. I mean, it's like pee-pee and poo-poo. I mean, both are old. One is from the silent generation. He cannot understand the internet, right? He's not from that generation. He has no... these people have nothing more to say, sorry, in regard to like what's going to go on, what's policies. We need to have people in the right places who understand, okay, this is what technology can do, this direction of technology we don't want, we don't go in this direction, we're not going to build a matrix, we're not going to build automated robots, we're not going to do this and that. But these technologies, they're safe, and we're going to build them in a way that's safe, like Neuralink. Why is this allowed to be built? Why is this allowed to be built? Anyway, I'm going off a tangent again.
So we have these fact checkers. They're going to tell you what's true. We all seen through that. So don't you think maybe, just maybe, they might have been doing it to us too? Do you think maybe?
Sure, because there are these bubble people with bubble heads, bubble aliens, and they have these dangling trunks, and oh man, this is so weird.
There might be some fire under the smoke of the UFO community. You think maybe they've had some technology that they haven't been honest about? Do you think maybe these people have had a goal to reduce population? Do you think maybe...
Yeah, they have a goal to reduce population, but in regard to technology, like we can clearly pinpoint how people invented these, from like electromagnetism with Benjamin Franklin, and then we had, you know, like, okay, Franklin was a Mason. So then we had Tesla, and we had Schrödinger, like, right? Schrödinger made the wave function, the wave equation. And so we're gonna now prove that there is no need for aliens for us to know what all this is. Schrödinger. This is an Schrödinger equation. Named after Erwin Schrödinger, who postulated the equation in 1925, the Peace Nobel Prize in Physics in 1933. It's the quantum counterpart of Newton's second law in classical mechanics. Mathematical prediction as to what path the physical system will take over time. So like it's probabilistic. It's right? You can look what the Hamiltonian is if you don't know. It's a kind of operator. Big H, Hamiltonian. The sum of kinetic energies of all particles plus the potential energy of the particles associated with the system. See, this is a sum. This is a sum. Certain other this is the kinetic energy operator here. Right. This is the Planck constant. So the Hamiltonian, as time goes on, you know, there are various quantum states and they are described by the Schrödinger equation. And so it's an exponential operator which is needed, right? If you look at what it actually means, this is the Planck constant. This is delta and delta time, delta divided by delta time. And then here we have, you know, for the particles, the phi, I think it is, and here is time. This is the Hamiltonian for the Schrödinger equation. And here we see the sigma, so this means it is an integral equation. So this is all, if you have linear algebra, you can solve this. So our metric systems here, this is a matrix, an n matrix, n times m matrix with m rows and n columns. This is the matrix. Anyway, okay, we're gonna go to tangent. So, and these are the states that can be predicted here, right? From a time-dependent Schrödinger equation. So, and the way he came up with this was not only Newton, but also all the previous stuff we knew about electromagnetism in the first place. From this comes Schrödinger's cat, right? Schrödinger's cat is both alive and dead. It's a little bit alive and a little bit dead. This is very beautiful. This is like, this is satisfying, yeah. This satisfies non-relativistic Schrödinger equation V equals 0. It's a particle that travels through empty space. It's beautiful. So before we go deeper, and so then even before that, I think, was the Michelson interferometer. Yeah, this is an interferometer, right? And before they even had lasers. In the 1887 they used the current light source. If the light source, it goes through a mirror which is half reflective and lets the other half through. Right? So one part bounces off here, goes to mirror, goes again here, passes through. Another part passes through, is being modulated with this compensating plate, goes again through, and goes to the detector screen. And this gives the interference pattern. This gives these quantum effects here, right? And this was first used with white light sources, not with lasers. We did not have lasers in the 1880s. So this was some, I don't know, some powerful white light source with coherent light. And I'm not gonna go explain what this is. This is another version of the same thing. This is already pretty weird. So basically this is this, right? If you detect it, the Michelson interferometer, it produces this wave function pattern here. And then if you measure it, it looks like this. So who else do we have? Quantum mechanics. Again, here we have the wave functions of electrons in hydrogen atom, and you can see the different states it assumes, alright? So like, how did it start with electromagnetism? Okay. So now let's look at the beginnings of electromagnetism. And you can easily see, like, if earlier people would have thought like that is magic. We just call it now electromagnetism, but it's the same thing. The term magic comes from magnesia for magnetism, magnet, and electron from elector, from the sun, which is electric and magnetic and all that.
Now, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, so this is about Coulomb's law. And I think
Support holding a piece of Teflon is wet.
so. This is a Teflon rod, and he's gonna rub it, and then he's charged. The rod is charged electrically, right? But you have some fur, which has a different. Now he's charging the plastic here. You can see it repels because it has the same charge. You can see how you know, it's electromagnetism. Magic. It's electromagnetism. It's fucking awesome. And this attracts because this is charged differently. When you touched it, it stopped working. You see? It attracts the positively charged thing. You can also take a glass rod or plexiglass. You see? There's no electronics in there. It's just a glass rod charged with charge from this other material here. This is, what is this? It's another material. And it attracts. But there's nothing to it other than that this is electric charge. This is Coulomb's law. I mean, it's awesome, but that's the very basics of how this universe works.
As positively.
We have something better here.
Next, and the negative charge. First of all,
so you have a silk cloth and a glass rod, and you rub it.
if a glass rod
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
is rubbed with a silk cloth, it acquires positive charge.
So now the negative charge jumped onto the silk cloth and it's fully positively charged, right? Oh.
While the silk cloth acquires an equal amount of negative charge. Secondly, if an ebonite rod is rubbed with
This is
fur,
ebonite.
it becomes negatively charged, while the fur acquires equal amount of positive charge. This classification of positive and negative charges were termed by American scientist Benjamin Franklin.
I mean, you can buy a glass rod and try it out. I mean, it's not dangerous. It's not gonna possess you or something. It's just fucking electricity. It's electricity. That's what makes your body work and everything. You know, that's why I can't just move my fingers through each other, right? They repel. The repulsion at very close distance is so large that you can't actually move. You can't run through a wall, but technically you could tunnel through it.
The shock you get from a doorknob, that trick you used to do with a balloon to make your hair stick up, or of course a lightning strike, they're all governed by the same principle, static electricity. Static electricity occurs when an object obtains a net amount of positive or negative electric charge, creating an imbalance that wants to be returned to equilibrium. Its effects aren't always as dramatic as lightning though. Let's take two pieces of tape that are both stuck to a table. If you rip them both off the table and try to stick them together, that should be easy enough, right? But it turns out that they repel one another. But try this, stick one on top of the other, rip the pair off the table, then separate the pieces. They're no longer repelled, now they're attracted to one another. In the first scenario, both pieces of tape stole to move around, depends on the material. And we describe the materials in the same manner that we do for heat. Charges move between them. Okay, so charges can move when different materials touch each other. It's like gravitation, when the distance
Electric charges attract or repel one another with a force inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. This is always the case, like for these. The further away, the weaker it gets, exponentially. Magnetic poles also attract and repel, but you can't have just a negative or a positive pole. You always have both poles, or maybe you have like 5 north poles and 3 south poles, whatever. Overall, one magnet is just neutral, and it's not dealing with virtual photons create a magnetic field. An electric current inside a wire creates a corresponding circumferential magnetic field outside the wire. Its direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise, depends on the direction of the current in the wire. A current is induced in a loop of a wire when it is moved toward or away from a magnetic field. So if you have a wire and you move the magnetic field, the charge moves. Hertz, yeah, Hertz. Yeah, and it's one of the 4 fundamental forces of the physical universe. Maxwell equation. That is also an important thing, right? This was very important. James Clerk Maxwell. So this is a magnetic core memory, and every one of these cores stores a bit of data, and depending on how you charge, on how they're charged, they can store different data, but it's lower resolution, of course. Yeah, so Faraday's law is about the electromotive force. This is how you can move something via either magnet or electric fields. If an electric charge runs through a system and gains an energy W, the net electromagnetic force, motive force for that device is the energy gained by unit charge. So we have a galvanic cell here. The electrons run from here to there, and then zinc ions go there, sulfate ions go there, and this creates a salt anode, cathode. And here we also have an anode and a cathode within the vacuum. This is very interesting. This creates an arc. And so this is the cathode ray. So basically the charge jumps from the anode to the cathode. You can imagine that the anode is a little bit like the sun and the cathode is a little bit like the earth, and then you have the aurora borealis, and it's the same principle. You see, if you use as a magnet you can charge. You see, it tries to go down. It is repelled by the magnet. So anyway, all these things, you know, we don't need aliens to explain how we found out how this works. We don't. If we don't need leprechauns to explain a theory, then let's keep out the leprechauns. Occam's razor. There is no need for leprechauns. I'm going to be back. cat beings. Ooh, okay. Geneticists of the universe and had a big hand in creating the human genome. There's no evidence for this. They used to visit ancient Egyptians because in Egypt we have Hathor and others who are have a cat head. Then the explanation is of course some alien race somewhere. Is this the Taigeta system? Really up to 12D. But this has nothing to do with dimensions. Nothing. They just abuse these terms and brainwash people. Bipedal cats, human cat hybrids. If they're older than humans, how can they be a human cat hybrid? They can't be hybrids if they're older than us. You see? This alone should tell you it's completely logical, it has no meaning, it's just bullshit. Human cat hybrid. This would mean that there were humans before the cat hybrids existed and somebody hybrided them into a spliced hybrid species. This alone this contradicts this term up there that they created the human genome. This is with so little logic. You can just see, just common sense. And you see that it has this is just like lore for a video game. It's like with the other thing. This is probably not from a video game. It's just, people are probably believing this, but it has no meaning. Millions of feline souls incarnating now. Feline energy. So this is like people then can identify as these starseeds or what? I can see how this is some kind of possession issue. Schizophrenia. This is schizophrenia. This is schizophrenia. This is like with these tulpas. She thinks she's a cat. They are said to have recently transitioned to this higher plane. Who says this? What? I thought they were master geneticists. This is like they make a basic cold reading for you, and then if you have this character, then they are like, and maybe you're a feline, and if you're a bit more like outgoing, then maybe you're, I don't know, I have no idea, maybe a mermaid person, or fish head, or whatever. Very masculine. It's very masculine, big female ass, very feminine, very feminine legs. Where's the masculine energy there? Can't you see what they do? What they do is they tell you, oh, if you are, you know, like if you have this character, then maybe you're like a Lyran. And people can actually believe this. What is, oh look, there is, you see? So they have like different ones, and if you have a different character, then maybe you're from there. This is, people choose. 10 things that make you an Orion starseed. This is exactly the insanity that is going on. But they're all deeply spiritual. They're all the same. There is no difference between them. They just look different. Different characters. So they're very logical now. They're not like the empaths. They're more logical. Strong opinions. Yeah, most smarter people have relationship issues because they don't put up with bullshit. That is not a proof of being a Pleiadian starseed or Orion. And then they put in nice boobies, right? So that that makes it more credible. I don't know. But they are just telling you things. You are this, you are that. If you are this, then you are that. Not one sentence that gives a reason why. Not one sentence that explains any of their claims. It's just claims, and they bury you with claims. But if you have a sharp wit, you would know that without any evidence, you can just disregard it as lore, as it's not even myth. Arcturians. They're more the sensual type. Yeah, these are just different basic characters, like the one was more empathic, one is more logical, this one is more open-minded. And then they lump you into these things. And you start to buy into it, and then they think like, oh, okay, I must be really a starseed from Arcturus or whatever. So they're probably all empathic, especially, like I'm also very empathic when I see this. Very nice. Thousands of young, beautiful women thinking they are alien starseeds. Schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. Paranoid schizophrenia, this is. I don't know for sure. But is there a reason? They don't give one explanation. I have not seen one explanation why that would be so. They just claim it and tell you. It's unbelievable. Andromedan starseeds from the other galaxy. If you're from another galaxy, then you must be craving freedom. I mean, I get brain cancer when I just read one sentence. Not even as a 5-year-old child would have believed this. The Lyra constellation. Saurians. Or at least the reptilian. That's so fun. So let's look more at this comedy. It's very entertaining.
On today's Edge of Wonder,
How would you guys like a world exclusive of something very classified?
riveting revelations from David Wilcock,
It is unbelievable.
and the
He tell you it's so dumb, it's unbelievable. He's telling you, you should not believe it. He tells you. Narcissists always tell on them. He tells you, you should not believe this. It's not believable, it's not credible. Because he will not provide any proof. These weirdos. One is dumber than the other.
On today's Edge of Wonder.
How would you guys like a world
Da, 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 da.
exclusive of something very classified?
Riveting revelations.
It's totally not
from David
credible.
Wilcock.
It is unbelievable.
And the questions of a dark agenda behind the California wildfires in this exclusive interview.
This is crazy, okay?
But what does crazy
Very
look like?
crazy.
If you see them in their native form,
Yeah, Eastern European women are now Arcturians maybe, and don't tell them because they will get you. I mean, imagine people actually believing this. They see a tall blonde person and they think then like, oh, it's probably an Arcturian. I mean, this could lead to stalking. This could lead to what kind of actions come from such beliefs?
Why would the deep state be concerned with who they are? In part one of this,
To the disclosure field.
So this is about the California wildfires.
in part one of this David Wilcock exclusive.
Welcome to Edge of Wonder. We have a great episode for you guys with our very special guest, Mr. David Wilcock. David, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate your time.
hey, thank you guys for bringing me on.
Hey, so we actually wanted to start off by asking you a little bit of a personal question, just about how you actually started with all of this. Like, why did you start looking into this and researching?
These
it?
two
What
hosts
helped
are
you
very
actually
weird.
Get into the disclosure field and start trying to figure out what was really going on.
And I would have multiple ever since I was,
Crazy planet.
well, I've had dreams about this kind of paranormal stuff for my entire life. Ever since I was 2 years old, I had
Yeah, dreams are weird. What is this? Is this an airplane without wings? It is an airplane without wings. What?
planes, they were cylindrical, but they didn't have wings. And they would kind of flutter like an insect
Flying
on the
penis.
ground. And I would have multiple dreams, quote unquote, where I was seeing these in the backyard at my house. I also would have dreams in which there was a being who I was speaking to. And I was born in 1973, and after I saw Star Wars in 1977, I was 4 years old, and saw it in the theater, didn't know what to expect. It blew me away. And the being in my dreams actually became Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, it's really fascinating because
What?
he actually in some ways felt more like a father to me than my...
So, in his paranoid schizoid state, he then he has a dream of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that's an alien star being seed thing. And he tutors him. Why is this person not locked up?
own parents did. And he was health curious, which I've talked about in my books and pretty extensively. I woke up floating over my body, seeing myself sleeping. And this was really a phenomenal experience to have. And I floated down the hallway and then went down the stairs. I felt like I was being observed, and then I got scared thinking I was dying. But the next step, actually read an adult book on ESP when I was 7 years old.
Yeah, and I read books about physics and laser when I was 8 years old. And does it mean that? What does that mean? Nothing.
By Harold Sherman, called How to Make ESP Work for You.
Experiences as well, and dreams and kind of things visiting me as well. We won't get into that.
You were visited?
But actually, and Rob and I were talking about
Was it
this
a sexual thing?
The first book that I checked out at the library, I was in second grade, was The Lost City of Atlantis, and a book on the Bermuda Triangle. And I've been like into this stuff ever since. So it's kind of interesting.
I just watched Goonies a lot.
So yeah, I feel like we're all on this path for a reason, and we all have a purpose and a destiny, I guess, with this.
No, we have no purpose.
You have two fires show up simultaneously right after a mass shooting, where the one in Southern California, the mass shoot
Yeah, sometimes mass shooting happens and then there happens a wildfire. And how is that correlated? And why do they even have to be correlated?
Thing is just a couple miles away from where the fire starts. And so then you see that because there's also a fire in Northern California that's even worse, that they have to take all these resources and throw them up to the north so they can't fight the fire in the south. And at the same time, we've now learned that they have these planes called super tankers that can literally do, you know, football fields wide of a curtain of water for miles and completely destroy a wildfire.
But with him,
and they've been used in
the way he talks, you can't really tell now if he's making up lore or if it's real, because it's so convoluted.
many other countries. You can just go scoop it out of the ocean, fly over, drop the stuff down, goes unbelievable. The scope of the devastation is unbelievable, and it's so...
This is a big tragedy. Many people lose their livelihood or their homes, and these people come and make money out of it by selling alien lore.
Much worse than an earthquake, because even in an earthquake, a bad earthquake, right? Blood sacrifice, then they did the sacrificial fire.
Okay, so how did they jump to this?
And then
Okay, the shooting is human sacrifice. Okay, I see.
And
a lot of it. And what we've noticed is anything else. I think it relates to anything else. And then we know this is they wanted up.
Military base, walk through the corridor, take the elevator.
On today's Edge,
I've ever seen. And they're like convinced. I mean, I'm getting a few messages like this. They're convinced that, they're showing me photos of like the fire, and then you're seeing also photos where it's like one side of the street is fine, the other side is like, it seems like it's almost like being selective. And
cars are melting. Cars melt at like 3,000 degrees centigrade, the metal. Like that is, wildfires don't do that. Like there's weird stuff going on.
And then it'll affect one car, and it seems to almost like kind of skip over other cars. Anyway, they're also trying to...
That is a bit weird,
This just seems too weird for me, and they're just like, they wanted us to look into this, and I was like, well, great, we can ask David Wilcock, but
Normal in the way that he talked, and then he would go down this hallway called the corridor.
Oh, now it comes to alien lore, I'm sorry.
Base that he would go to work at in the UK, and he would have to talk to people at a desk when he got towards the end of this thing, and they would make sure that he was normal in the way that he talked, and then he would go down this hallway called the corridor, a big round tunnel, and then at the end of the tunnel was an elevator, and he would use a key, a typical house key, and they said it would reduce psychological impact to do it this way. He would turn the key in the elevator, the door would close, and when the door would open, he claimed that he was on Mars.
Nice.
Now,
what?
He was working within a world in which he would apparently...
No, David Wilcock, no.
Drive to work, park at this military base, walk through the corridor, take the elevator takes him to Mars, he does shifts on Mars, he comes back and he goes home in the UK, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff that he told me.
Yeah, he
Including
made
the
a
fact
fool of
that there
you.
were 200,000 personnel on this Mars base, but only 10,000 of them were actually born on Earth. One of the things that he told me early along that I found really surprising
And
was that...
do we have any evidence for this? Do we have any evidence? Any evidence that this is true? Because we were talking about California wildfires, I think, but now he's on Mars, where he can just, like, use the right key in a military department and you're on Mars. Sure.
The people that he was talking to that were not born on Earth, nonetheless, for the most part, looked very human-like. Some of them had skin that was kind of a pastel pink. Some of them looked pastel yellow. Some of them looked green, orange. blue, light blue, dark, more or less like us, but something's a little off here, there, or the other ones. There were certain things that he and others have told me over the years that I absolutely was not ever going to disclose. And there's a variety of reasons for that. My goal is not just to wow people with fantastic sounding information. I really do observe the secret.
The people who believe these are insane, but the people who believe that these aliens are maybe the bad guys and they exist, this is equally insane. You're also buying into this. Why is anybody buying into this? There's no proof, there's no nothing. There's no proof for that.
See, for the protection of my insiders, I want to never break confidentiality. I want to be that guy who has integrity. You can come to me with information and trust that unless you ask me to make it go public, it's not going anywhere. And that's how I've been able to do this so long, and that's how I've gotten so many insiders on my side. You're not going to hear any real, true story. You might get disinformation, but there's not going to be a true story about me betraying somebody. Okay, that's the premise.
He's telling you. He will sell you disinformation, whatever.
Some of the humans that they deal with routinely in our military-industrial complex are people who look pretty much just like us. And they might have subtle differences, but not that many. Now, one of the people...
Are you gonna describe your characters now? I think he's gonna describe these characters now, which he sells. These are his product, right?
For many, many years, okay? For the most part, the men are really buff. They have really strong bodies. They might be a little bit taller than we are. And if you see them the way they naturally would look, their skin is pretty darn pale. It's a little bit too pale, like it looks a little bit too white. And they have white hair, which is another strange thing. If you see them in their native form, their eyes will either be a dark blue or a violet color, which we do not have. And then another interesting thing is that their pupil is kind of like a diamond shape. It's not reptilian, it's not this bird.
It could just be from Star Trek, from the older Star Trek, some fantasy lore.
Teeth. And they have fewer teeth in their mouth than we do. I believe they only have 22 teeth. They kind of have this little scalloped edge on the bottom of the teeth, and also they have a scalloped roof of their mouth. Like our soft palate in the top of our mouth is flat. Theirs is like a cat. It has ridges, really thick, deep ridges. Now,
yeah, so you never want to get a blowjob from one of these Arcturians, right? I mean...
People supposedly, at least have been treaties where the Centaurians are allowed to walk around in our everyday world.
Oh, now it gets good.
Talked about this is Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Minister of Defense, in which he's talking about these people being authorized to walk around in Nevada.
And do we see any... Where does this person say this? This is not credible.
There's one case he talks about where they were dressed up like nuns. So the nun, with the habit and everything, they look a little different. Now, normally the Centaurians are going to wear contact lenses to hide especially if they have the violet color in their eyes, but definitely the pupils too. They have to wear a snap-in dental plate to hide the serration on the bottom of their teeth.
The lore is extensive, but the extensivity, the amount of details he describes this does not make it more credible. It's just flooding you with information, but it's not information that has any meaning.
And they might also wear small town. Now, they're simply high. You actually get this very powerful, euphoric, drug-like
and they're telepaths, all of
just
them
for
are.
being in their presence. So there was a treaty, and I was notified about this in 2007, and I've heard about this town ever since from 3 or 4 different insiders, and you probably can see where this is going.
No.
Paradise, California.
Oh,
Paradise, California is
where
a name I've been
one of the fires happened
for 11 years. And it's the most important small town in the United States where these people were being given safe haven and refuge. Now, there's some weird stuff, okay, that I'm going to tell you. including the fact that Paradise had dentists who were trained in how to
for the serrated weird teeth they have, yeah.
And the teeth are wider than ours, and there's fewer of them. And I think there's also something funny about the tooth structure. They can't just get a normal dentist. Obviously, the dentist would flip out and lose his mind. So,
and all these weird stories, they don't are 1 inch of proof. It's just weird stories, it has no meaning, it's meaningless.
People are going to ask me, how many of these Centaurians were living in Paradise? And the answer is I don't know. From the briefings I've gotten, I would, and this is absolute speculation, it's only a guess, and I would say it's probably at least 500. It might even be a few thousand, I don't know.
So there are 500 Arcturians or Centaurians.
Paradise, California at some point.
I was being...
I planned on it, and this is, I've never talked about this before, this is a world exclusive, okay? And I'm not making this up, I've got recordings with Henry Deacon going back 07, 08, 09, that I could dig out where we're talking about Paradise,
dig it out.
California. Nothing.
Let him tell it.
And I've had 3 other
I want to hear that the major telling it.
The only 2 cities like this in America were Paradise and someplace in Nevada that we don't even know exactly where it is. So why would...
It's always in Nevada with
this
these
happen?
aliens.
Why would the most important
Or
city
California.
in America for human extraterrestrials burn down so fast that people died in their car trying to pull out of the driveway, right? And the question that I want to know is, were we on the verge of a disclosure event? Were we on the verge of these Centaurians introducing themselves to us collectively? And did that possibility so anger the cabal that they said, we'll show you guys? Because I've seen photographs, and I'm going to have it in my article if I can dig them up again, of laser beams coming down, igniting these fires. You can see the beam through the smoke and the flames. This was not an...
So I'm not saying it wasn't laser beams, that can't be proven, but I'm pretty sure it was not alien people with laser beams. If it was laser beams, it was our own stupid military.
Accident. This is the HARP stuff where they can create a very fast blowing wind. The Santa Ana wind, which is originally Satana, the satanic wind, right? And they just changed the name to Santa Ana. There is no Saint Anna, you know, they just didn't want it to be Satanus, which is what it was originally called. Satan. Because it blows
Satan is a wind in California.
The Paradise thing is really upsetting because we've never seen a city get so devastated in the history of America. And so many of these people who are totally innocent.
Like the issue with the USA is like they build all these houses out of wood and they have no fundament, right? And they burn down to the ground. Nothing is being... Why do you... Here in Switzerland, all our houses, you can't crush them, they will not break, you know. This will not happen here. This happens in the USA where they build these cheap houses. It's unbelievable.
And we're probably getting ready to risk their lives and come forward and introduce themselves to us. Probably many of them have died. And it's also like...
It's a great tragedy.
If you guys talk...
A great many boffins died to deliver you this message.
Again, if you think you're going to talk again, we're going to do this to you again. So I find the whole thing very, very sad.
Wow. That is just shocking.
How can they stay, you know, like this and not laugh?
Completely. Well, now, they may not have all gotten hit. And I'll tell you another weird thing about the Centaurians. They can't really live above the ground for too long on Earth. They like it here, and of course Paradise, you got redwood trees, you got the forest. It's an amazing wilderness paradise. That's why they named it Paradise, because it was so beautiful. So it would make sense that these people, if they did a treaty, that they would want to live in such a beautiful place, right? The part that we don't really see, though, is that predominantly they live in an underground base. And so what they will have, and again, I'm sorry because this is going to sound like sci-fi, And you're going to have these people, the keyboard jockeys, they're going to be, Dave Wilcock, he's so crazy, right? I'm just going to tell you what I know. You can laugh. Sometimes you need to laugh to learn the truth, you know? But they predominantly live in underground bases, and so they will, as part of the treaty, they might be given a house, but then the house will have an elevator shaft that will actually go deep down and then go down to one of these sub-shuttles where they can shuttle over to their underground city. So the house is not necessarily where they live all the time.
But
then the question is, can they...
But I think we have seen that these houses, they don't even have a basement. They have no basement. There's no underground tunnels. Maybe like with the Ozarks, some place they do have, but not those buildings we saw.
But then the house will have an elevator shaft that will actually go deep down.
Yeah, we saw all these buildings, they don't have elevator shafts, and we can prove that because from the photos you can see that they don't even have a basement. You can clearly see not one of these buildings has a basement. They don't have basements. Like most buildings in the USA, they don't even build like a fundament basement. This is very common. I don't know why they do it. It's just cheaper. But no basements. No Arcturian bases here. I can't see any of them here. I can't see any basements even. They're just built on the ground. They don't even build a fundament. Right? You can see it's flat as it gets. There's no basement. A swimming pool, that's the only hole in the ground that they actually have built here.
And then
no
go
tunnels.
down to one of these sub-shuttles where they can shuttle over to their underground city.
Yeah, right.
So the house is not necessarily where they live all the time.
Sure.
But then the question is, can they get...
But can you see how it would like induce some kind of pseudo-schizophrenia if you think that, if you expect that some people here living are Arcturian aliens, and you see a person who looks tall and blonde and a little bit buff, then, as he said, then you might suspect that they are some alien starseed. This is schizophrenia. This is complete schizophrenia. Whether you believe that they are the good guys or the bad guys, in both cases it's schizophrenia if you believe
their elevator fast enough to get down below where the fire is. How many of them actually died? How many of them burned up? I don't know. You know, the Alliance is in the middle of what they call active operations right now. The final stage of getting ready to defeat the Cabal, so the briefings have dried up. But...
active operations is the term for a psychological operation, right? It's a psychological operation. He tells you this is a psychological operation, psyops.
I would imagine a lot of Centaurians died in this fire. And they
sorry, it's Centaurians, it's not Arcturians. I must be very racist.
They couldn't act fast enough because literally, as I said, people are trying to evacuate and the fire was so fast they didn't even have time to make it to their car.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that
just
is
for the
crazy.
record,
But look at him. Look at that dumb expression he makes, like, is this person buying this? Is he so baffled that... Making a very concerned Wilcock face.
Our show that subscribe are gonna totally buy that elevator story.
He's mocking... He's mocking the Wilcock laughs, but he's mocking the audience who watches this. They are actively mocking you. They're mocking the audience.
And probably.
They're just, right now they're at home like this.
Like we are too. So, David, real quick, I'm trying to remember, because we actually did a series on different, an alien, we did 2 alien guide videos, which, I thought it was the Centaurians, but maybe I'm getting confused now. Which one was it that you said they were like really big and buff, but if you find out about them, they might like follow you or something, and they're working within the government?
Centaurians, yes.
You just imagine a person in California or Nevada or somewhere. They see a person who looks a little bit buff and tall and blonde, with blonde white hair. They think, oh fuck, this is an Arcturian, Centaurian alien. Then maybe they stalk that person. At some point the other person notices it, like, hey, this person following me, why are they looking at me? And look back at them. And then you get, oh, he might mind wipe me, I have to go away. I mean, crimes can result from this idiocy.
Like, what's the difference between like this group of Centaurians and the ones that basically? I mean, from my understanding too, there could be some that are working with the Cabal, and then some that are, you know, just trying to live very peaceful and maybe just studying human race.
Very peaceful Centaurians.
So I'm glad you brought that up because it is an opportunity for me to make some clarifications. So first of all, it's very rare that you would see a Centaurian walking around in public, unless it was Paradise, California, without a military escort. And this is going to be a guy who is roided out, you know, he's
very buff. He likes buff men.
going to have the big steroid face, and, you know, the acromegaly where his head is really big, his jaw is really big, it's really overly strong. Okay. So you're going to see a roided out military contractor walking around, kind of on the periphery with the Centauri. There's nothing that would stop him from...
So Mr. Wilcock here, he has certainly very specific fantasies about buff alien men.
Or a wig or dyeing their hair, so you're not in the play, and you see somebody who's really strong and looks kind of pale, you know, that could be one of them. Now,
yeah, it's making people paranoid and schizophrenic.
You know, the names that the military industrial complex gave various ET races were not exact, and so when you hear the term tall whites, there's a few different types of ETs that could be called tall whites. And so it is not like, oh, when he's talking about the tall whites, I know about tall whites.
Tall white persons are tall white persons. They're not aliens. Stop this.
And Charles Hall did the Solepo. And again, this is all stuff that people are going to be learning. They might laugh right now. Your audience...
Ha ha ha, you stupid ass. David Wilcock, you're such an asshole.
If you can imagine it being progressed forward to the point that it is hominid...
Is this high-level trolling of some sort?
You can imagine that those types of beings exist somewhere, because that's really what it is. The biosphere of a planet pretty much stays the same as what we have here, but it then depends on which species gets elevated to intelligent life, at which point it's going to have the hominid head, 2 arms, 2 legs, or so-called 5-star formation. So, hang on. Look for these. It's not a good idea to go looking for Centaurians. I'm going to go to the farmer's market now every weekend. You know, look for these white guys.
Okay, at least that's a little bit responsible what he's saying.
There's other types of people because they have all different types of social strata, and the ones that were living in paradise appear to be the more peaceful types of Centaurians. In paradise, they would typically be like at the back corner of a coffee shop, sitting alone. And you might have a conversation with them where you never look at them. You sit near them at a different table, and you have this whole telepathic thing going on, very entertaining and blissful conversation, And then at the end, you might just turn to them and kind of smile and give them a nod. And otherwise, you might not even look at them. So it's like any culture, they're complicated. It's not like there's simple little boxes you can put them in. Another thing I can tell you that's another world exclusive for you guys. Again, you know,
People are gonna laugh.
I apologize, but
Ha ha ha.
Centaurians are very psychic, and so
They all
one of
are,
the things
aren't
that
they?
have for entertainment is treaties where they will go from their underground home to roll if you're playing craps, and they know that everybody's cheating, but
Like,
it's this kind
this
of
is
ET
good.
Olympic.
Telepathic Olympics.
Who is better at being able to psychically pick each other's cards? Who is better at being able to manipulate where
Arcturians playing
goes?
poker.
How the dice roll
Blackjack.
when you're playing craps, and they really like who in which
On today's Edge of
to have the big steroid face, because I'm getting very different. I get a very different. You might call them the mantis people. They have different names.
Mantis
for them,
people.
but there could be a lot of different types of insectoids too. So. And again, this is all stuff that people are going to be learning. They might laugh right now. Your audience, the core audience, probably doesn't.
Shut up.
But anything that you see on Earth, if you can imagine it being progressed forward to the point that it is hominid and intelligent, you can imagine that those types of beings exist somewhere, because that's really what it is. The biosphere of a planet pretty much stays the same as what we have here, but it then depends on which species.
I'm starting to wonder, like, are they just want to make people schizophrenic, or is there, like, what is the purpose of all this? Why is he doing this? Is he just trying to make money, or is this, like, this is just some colossal psyop? Because at first it looks like harmless schizophrenia, but if like 100 million people believe this garbage, believe that there are outside, there are all these millions of aliens and they want to communicate with us and have tea party and all that. Come on. Human mind will make excuses to believe any bullshit if it validates the ego.
Into intelligent life, at which point it's going to have the hominid head, 2 arms, 2 legs, or so-called 5-star formation. So, getting back to these tall whites, getting back to the Centaurians and the core of what you were asking me, if you're dealing with some of the military-minded Centaurians, the folks who are here for sort of like their national defense, those types, or national, nation, race, whatever you want to call it, okay, it's probably not a nation. The defense types, yes, you do not want them to know that you recognize them. You probably would get telepathic eyes. I wouldn't do that. But there's other, and you might have a conversation with them where you never look at them. You close down certain casinos at certain times. These are very psychic. And so one of the things that they have for entertainment is treaties where they will go from their underground home to this base under Las Vegas. They'll take elevators up, they'll close down certain casinos at certain times. They'll take elevators up from the base into the casino, which most of these casinos have those. Because there's a lot of relationship between casinos and the military-industrial complex, actually.
That may actually be true.
So they'll bring these Centaurians and some other human
that we don't know, all kinds of these lottery and casino and all this is all just, the bank always wins, so it's a way of making money, but I'm not saying it cannot be that they are connected to some underground bases. That could be, I'm just saying no Centaurians.
Groups up into the casino. And then what they do is literally like a psychic Olympics in which they are competing with each other to cheat in these Vegas games like roulette, poker.
Sure, that's
you
what
name
they
it.
do.
Who is better at being able to psychically pick each other's cards? Who is better at being able to manipulate where the little roulette ball goes? How the dice roll if you're playing craps? And they know that everybody's cheating. But it's this kind of ET Olympics in terms of which group can out-cheat the other group at Vegas. And so this is one of the things they do as a sporting event, believe it or not. And again, it sounds so bizarre, but this is the kind of weird stuff that I hear.
David, how do I
But I mean, this is what an 11-year-old would write for, I don't know, an essay or something.
sign Ben up for that? I gotta get him in there.
It was a lot of money.
Also, I just want to say thank you for putting my mind at ease.
Are these two a couple?
I always knew there was a conspiracy revolved around California farmers market. I knew it. I knew there had to be. I can go to sleep really well tonight.
No, you're good.
You gotta watch out for those daikon roots and those arugula vegetables.
Exactly. I knew those mushrooms were weird.
It's very funny. What? Yeah, going back to Vegas, I mean, we've heard that too, where a lot of these ETs actually will go to Vegas and they just like hanging out and gambling and seeing what.
I guess that's why what happened in Vegas.
I don't think they're allowed by these treaties to snooker normal people. From my understanding, they will have a special event. They will close the casino down, and then you'll have these people in there competing against each other, but not against ordinary folks, because they would just devastate people, and they would make so much money that you can't really let them do this amongst ordinary people, even if they look like us, and we wouldn't be able to tell them apart from others.
Well, about what's going on here?
I don't know. I mean, that's part of why I wanted to write this article, which I'm still developing. I'm getting close to being finished with it now, is that I don't know if Trump and his administration even know about the Centaurians, honestly. And the reason why I say this is Pete Peterson, who was, again, called Dr. Do by Reagan and Cheney and Rumsfeld, that whole Reagan administration, he was their #1 technology advisor. He had an amazing ability
I've seen this one, I think.
to invent
Equally
interesting
not
stuff.
credible.
His grandfather was Nikola Tesla's lab assistant. He learned all the Tesla patents and secret technology, and they trained him with a different and he invented materials blend. He would, there's certain things that he'd talk about.
I'm looking, I don't even know the right, alienese to search for this. Starseed Lyrans. No, no.
Done. Cat-human hybrid, place of origin. Originally, these beings came from another universe. They are prominent in the Sirius star system, but exist in other star systems as well. Evolution evolved billions of years ago from
But if they're hybrids, how can they be older than humans?
quadruped cats to bite.
No sense.
These were all other creative beings, able to connect with other forms of consciousness and
They're
co-create with
all of them are telepathic.
involvement with Earth. They see feline species on Earth in times of mammal evolution, prominent in Atlantis, Lemuria, and later in ancient Egypt as guides to.
Good evening, Dr. Rashau. Thanks very much for your time. Well, first of all, for those of us who are uninitiated, invasive alien species.
So there's a Freemason and he's gonna tell us some fables.
What are those, and why should we be bothered?
We should not be
by
bothered.
their presence?
Good evening to Paul, good evening to you. And those are alien because they do not come from this country. So aliens have been introduced in many parts of the areas for food, for agriculture.
Can we eat them?
Shade, in the case
Can I eat one of these lyrans? I would take a lyran steak.
of trees
I'm vegetarian, but I'm just saying, I mean, what is this?
and all of that. But not all of them have got a problem. And hence we concentrate only a percentage of those that have escaped from being managed and going into the natural environment. Know that they also affect food security through affecting agricultural production.
Now, what
It's called climate change.
is your
Should be proud that we produced a report which is an assessment of the status of biological invasions on all aspects. So we have assessed pathways of introduction, which pathways of allowing the species to come into the country, pathways of introduction, the species, the areas, and the intervention. A number of species are entering the country. At least 7 species each year are entering the Republic. And in some instances, they are entering deliberately through pet trade, through horticulture, and all of that.
Nice.
In some instances, they are alien in the Republic. And about 38% of those, which is about just over 700, are actually invasive in the wild. And within those, about 10%, which is about 100, have got massive impacts. But they have massive impact. And
Go away.
Hey guys, it's Alyssa Marie, your intuitive reader. I hope you all are having a wonderful.
There you go.
Orchard was Lyran, and I can talk about that more in depth. But I believe that I have lived a life in Lyra on one of the planets, and I have a memory when I go into meditation of being with, I believe it is my sister or a member of my family. I'm definitely cat-like being, she's a cat-like being, more like a lion, I would say. And clear as day, there's an asteroid coming down to our planet, and it's chaotic. And
So, maybe I'm also a lyran. I'm gonna put my cat hat on. I can't deal with this. This is so dumb shit. But look, they're getting all emotional about it. Tears started rolling down my face. Why? Why? Huh? going on with these people? She's gonna cry if I give this a dislike.
It was like so sudden, as if we were just outside and all of a sudden reptilian know that, you know, I was there and she was there. And I remember she turned her head and she, in particular Bastet and Horus and Ra. But anyway, so that I thought was an
So they're like, in Egypt and in India, there are forms of Brahman which have a cat face. In the Egyptian, I don't know enough about it to tell what is what, but it is very alien to me, the Egyptian thing. Anyway, but what I'm saying is they just make a species out of it. They see some, I don't know, bird head person, and then they make a species, alien species.
interesting little tidbit there. And now we're going to talk. I really think some people, if your looks have anything to do with it, some people will tell you it does. Like some people will say,
I also like cats. I have a cat. It's lying.
I don't really believe that, but if you do, go ahead. But for that reason, I'm not going to look
Hello.
at physical traits. I'm going to look at more
Hello.
personality traits. Okay.
Can you
So
see
I'm
the
gonna
kitty?
make a list here that I've compiled, and you see if you resonate with any of them. Okay. So first.
So if you have an emotional resonance with it, then you're a cat being.
Experience the 3D, right? So these are beings from different dimensions, higher dimensions, but they love to experience the 3D. So they love food, they love drink, they love.
They have a mouth, they eat,
like that.
if they have a mouth.
Natural leaders, romantic, fighters not in the sense of like aggressiveness, but fighting for what they're passionate about. So fighting.
Yeah, right. Self-defense is not allowed. You have to let yourself be killed because defending yourself is evil or what? Of course not.
Bring from 7D up. Ryron Starseed are
Are there any proofs for this? No.
the creation of humanity. They gifted the element of fire to Earth and also seeded the.
So they're responsible for fire element now. This is exactly what I told you before. This is absolute garbage.
Initial
This does not exist.
Surrounded by
But if you believe it exists in your head. Even if you think like they're like the bad guys, and you need to make a report on them, you're buying still into it.
but spontaneous and carry high energy all the time. Because of their high energy, they want to try so many things. Highly trustworthy friends.
They are very empathic and passionate. This is like, why? Is there any explanation ever given? No. It's just lore.
Which is experience history.
My God. Sacred journeys. Guardian angel is something different. Surrender to what? To these alien beings?
We begin to get close enough.
Don't give them an inch. Hybrids. This could be good. Ah, these are probably the wiggling alien spacecraft penises. Come on.
Can you describe how you got the update?
What is going on here? Have they painted his hair white? Yes, darker hair. What is this? Must be a Centaurian.
Gonzalez picks me up just sporadically, just to check on my health and to abate certain things that I have going on. And one of these random times I got picked up right after I had my little...
So he had the schizophrenic episode, and then the aliens came and, you know, had a tea party with him.
I've got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. And I'm wondering how I get down the stairs. Crimes to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you. And I'm wondering what it is I should do.
Of course, there's a reason why they say mad as a hatter, right? I mean, the hatters, they used mercury in their work, so at some point they became mad. This is why they say mad as a hatter. He has good videos.
For about at least a year now, the Lunar Operation Command, which controls airspace, the flight corridors, had locked down after a number of...
And mini colonies elsewhere in the solar system. So,
mini colonies.
What's happening with the interplanetary corporate conglomerate?
Well, a lot of it goes back to Sigmund and the information I relayed. It's been a couple of years ago now, hasn't it?
Probably not Sigmund Freud.
The information that was given to him about Darkfleet had their entire rosters, all of their assets. Anyone who was even a puppet of theirs it was all in this information. That Sigmund handed over to the SSP Alliance, and then it was disseminated through several of the other SSPs, at least 3. I know that the Global Galactic League of Nations,
League of Nations,
about
sure.
To Mars.
They've all. Do you know anything about that, or that the indigenous peoples on Mars, and we're talking about the indigenous reptilians, the indigenous insectoids, are being aided by the Galactic Federation, or one of them, to rebel against the reptilians, against the human overlords. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not aware of any reptilians or insectoids that are native to Mars. They've all come from other timelines and from other star systems or eons. They may have lived there for many, many generations, but that's not where they're from. But the Space Alliance, for people to kick back and start celebrating victory, because you're celebrating prematurely. There's a lot of conflict going on between China and space.
I mean, would this have to happen through some major military incursion, like the...
This person has his eyebrows dyed, but why? Is this a younger person posing as an older guy? What is this? This is all insane.
Politics and trying to take over, certain parties, and the left, it's horrible. The right, it's horrible. There were even, regular Marines that were sent into so many situations that weren't briefed on the possibility of ETs being there, because they didn't think they would be there, but they had joint little areas you know, or a little area segment.
Learned about Elon Musk using his Starship to send a few shiploads of people over there and start working on building a base on the moon, and then they plan to have a permanent gateway, they call it, around the moon. I thought that reflected a change of management on the moon, but it sounds like you're saying the moon is still, the management system is still in place, no big changes.
No really big changes. I mean, the Lunar Operation Command went through some serious management and people changes. They realized that the only way the secret space program and their allies, the Alliance, were getting to and from certain locations on the Earth was that they had help on the inside, opening up corridors, allowing them to, you know, fly to and from without being, you know, popping up as a red.
So if I was to come about Destiny,
a trusting relationship with us. So we're going to have to get our shit together on this planet and contribute to the process.
This is like